بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وآله وأزواجه وذريته أجمعين. اللهم ربنا أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه. اللهم أرنا حقائق الأشياء كما هي. اللهم ربنا زدنا علما وعملا وإخلاصا يا رب العالمين. اللهم صل صلاة كاملة وسلم سلاما تاما على سيدنا محمد الذي تنحل به العقد وتنفرج به الكرب وتقضى به الحوائج وتنال به الرغائب وحسن الخواتيم ويستسقى الغمام بوجهه الكريم وعلى آله وأزواجه وذريته أجمعين في كل لمحة ونفس بعدد كل معلوم لك. اللهم في هذه اليوم المبارك فرج عنا وعن إخواننا في غزة. اللهم فرج عنا وعن إخواننا في فلسطين وخاصة عامة وفي غزة خاصة. اللهم فرج عنا وعن إخواننا في غزة. اللهم نفس كربنا وكربهم. اللهم نفس كربنا وكربهم وثبت أقدامنا وأقدامهم. وثبت أقدامنا وأقدامهم والطف بنا وبهم يا أرحم الراحمين. والطف بنا وبهم يا أرحم الراحمين. والطف بنا وبهم يا أرحم الراحمين. آمين آمين آمين. وصلى الله تعالى على رسول خير خلقه محمد وآله وأزواجه وذريته وصحبه أجمعين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. Okay. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. So we're continuing our reading. We had stopped at note 7 yesterday. So early Islamic societies are also viewed as having developed the concept of citizenship, democracy, and suffrage. Obviously, those who do that, they are wrong in that. Not because they're wrong about Islam, but they don't fully understand what citizenship means and what democracy mean today, or what suffrage mean today. There are concepts similar to that in Islam and early Islamic societies. There is a form of voting, but it's not related to suffrage. Anyway, unlike some globalization theorists and political scientists who call into question the future durability of the state, modern Islamic thinkers and scholars take the modern state for granted, in effect, as a timeless phenomenon. How can modern state be a timeless phenomenon? So he's saying, unlike some globalization theorists and political scientists who call into question future durability of the state, I mean, he hasn't given any reference to that, so I can't say anything. But, people, for various reasons, people talk about withering. People have been saying that the state has become weak in the wake of neoliberalism, but I mean, that's not true. Neoliberalism, it's not the question of a state becoming weak. So a state has become weak vis-a-vis capital. That doesn't mean that the state has become weak vis-a-vis labor, for example. So most of these conjectures about the weakening of states, I think, are not correct anyway. But then he goes on to say that the modern Islamist thinkers and scholars, all of them, and scholars, take modern state. So just want to modern state. For granted. I don't know what he mean by granted, but it exists. It is there with all its force. So, I mean, how can, for example, Palestinians not take in Gaza, for example, not take modern Israeli state as a fact? They are, uh, facing its, the brunt of its existence, and they're fighting it. I mean, you in your ivory tower can think that modern state is weakening or doesn't exist. So I think modern Islamic scholars, or whoever they are, they think modern state is very powerful. It's a fact, and we have to do something about it. We have to encounter it. We have to overcome it and establish a different type of states. That's something which seems to me, their positive contribution. So, okay, let's keep going. And so, and so the scholar, who does he quote? The modern scholar, modern Islamist thinking scholar, take the modern state for granted. And then he goes on to say, in effect, modern state, they take it to be a timeless phenomenon, which to me mean that he's saying that modern Islamist thinker think that modern state has always existed. That's what timeless phenomena means. I mean, that's a ludicrous thing to say. Who believes that? But while Hallaq, unless he doesn't know what he's saying, he doesn't fully understand what he's saying. How can somebody say that modern state is a timeless phenomenon? You can say, state in one form or another has existed. I don't know of any serious Islamic thinker, despite my disagreements with them, believe that modern state is a timeless phenomenon. Because when we say modern state, it means, it is modern. It didn't exist before modernity. Which is not to say that a state didn't exist. Not to say that. So let's say this type of state started, emerging in 16th and 17th century. First we had absolute states, and from there, the modern state developed. But let's say in 12th century, state was totally different. So that seems to me, and the other thing is, for Muslim, timeless. There's no time. There's only one timeless phenomenon. Allah Subhanahu wa Taala's. And يبقى وجه ربك كل من عليها فان ويبقى وجه ربك ذو الجلال والإكرام. How can somebody believe that state is a timeless phenomenon? And and there's no doubt about that in Quran and Islamic tradition. Al-Harbu Sijal, and the whole notion of Takalubu Zaman, and اللهم مالك الملك تؤتي الملك من تشاء وتنزل الملك ممن تشاء وتعز من تشاء وتذل من تشاء بيدك الخير إنك على كل شيء قدير. So yeah, the whole belies that, and what exists today didn't exist yesterday and will not exist tomorrow. That's what time means. That's what history means. That's what history teaches us. And despite many shortcomings of the Islamists, and despite all their believing, timeless phenomena of some sort, and not paying enough attention to history, and giving too much credibility to the present. And they have their reasons for that, because the present is overwhelming. I think no sane person can say that modern state is a timeless phenomenon. So I don't know what he's talking about. And who does he? Let's see, who does he refer to in footnote 9 and 10? And then we'll come back to this. And he does say that this being partly a reflection of the present reality in which they must confront what seems to them to be indestructible, powerful machine on daily basis. But I don't think that from this they infer that modern state is a timeless phenomenon. I mean, they see certain similarities and anticipations within the Islamic system and within the prophetic system, which resembles the modern system, but that doesn't mean that they think that modern system existed always. Okay, let's see what he's saying in the notes. So the note 9, modern Islamic scholars about somebody, Muhammad Fadil, trader, which imagine the concept of pre-modern Islamic state. Okay, so if it is pre-modern, so it is not modern. That must fit into the modern state. All the parameters. Such apologetics charge with pseudo-scholarly narrative, thereby elevating dogma and pseudo-history to scholarly state. And the modern Islamic writers see Ibn and Zaman. I mean, is Muhammad Fadil the representative of all the Muslim scholars? I doubt it. I'm sure that, I mean, I have criticized Islamists. I think the Islamists, their understanding of modern state is not very. It needs to be revived. It needs to be revised. There's no doubt about that. And also, some of their claims about the Medina states are wrong. But from this, you can't just attribute any nonsense to Muslim scholars or Islamic. And number 10, timeless phenomena. Okay. On such, we see Jackson. For Iran, see Hallaq, Shirazi, Constitution of Iran, Roy, failure. I mean, I've read Failure of Political Islam. It accurately describes the phenomenon of political Islam with the state as an obsession. State as an obsession. I think whatever political Islam is, state is not obsession as such. Because all other Islamic schools ignore state, basically. So that's why political Islam, it's very basis of their thinking is the importance of state in the modern world, and we have talked about this. So, and it's always the case that when people take certain cause as their cause, they always overemphasize. So Tabligh Jamaat always is going to overemphasize Tabligh and their version of Tabligh. Jamaat Islami and Ikhwan are always going to overemphasize state, etc. Those who are, engage in scholarly pursuit, they are always going to overemphasize scholarly pursuits, etc. But doesn't mean that their basic point is wrong. I think the main the things which political Islam gets correct is the importance to state in modern thought and to develop an alternative or a strategy to overcome it. I think they're wrong in their understanding of modern state in certain ways. So we need to work on that, and they are wrong in their strategy accordingly on how to transcend this state. But they are not wrong in their emphasis on the centrality of the modern state. You can call it obsession, but the state is a central phenomenon in modern way of life. And if you are confronting an alien civilization whose main power behind it is the state, and you're trying to overcome it, you are going to take it seriously. So if you take state seriously, you can call it obsession. But you will be, mad not to take the state seriously. So modern Muslims are therefore faced with the challenge of reconciling two facts: the ontological fact of state, undeniably power presence, and the second, deontological fact of the necessity to bring about a form of Sharia governance. What is reconciliation there? There's no reconciliation. Let's talk about these two facts. We have done this before, but maybe we'll be able to be more clear about this. So after talking, so he seems to now grant that a state is a fact, a very powerful state, which the like of which has never existed in human history. And the second is so this is a factual question. Then what he calls evaluative or deontological question is how to bring about Sharia governance. So there's no reconciliation. The challenge is Islamic government requires Islamic state, and that requires overcoming this state and building a new state and a strategy for that. So there's no reconciliation. The question of understanding the modern state and form of government, developing a strategy to overcome this state, and at the same time develop an Islamic state, an Islamic form of governance, which Sharia can. And this Islamic state and Islamic government won't, and that's where Islamists are wrong. This won't wait until Islamic state actually overcome this state. But Islamic state and Islamic form of government will develop today within the existing states and form of government, and develop alternative institutions. So the task is to develop a state within a state, government within government, society within society, and to a certain extent, all Islamic work does that. But what we need to do is to develop a coherent strategy in which the work of different Islamic groups, political Islamist, non-political Islamist, traditionalist, etc., ulama, so all tabligh, jihad, education system, they all work needs to be uh, conceived in a way in which it strengthen each other and eventually leads to the establishment of Islamic State and Islamic government, which would be just a prelude to really the dominance of Islamic civilization. So, Islamic State and governments, they are all tools. They are not ends in themselves. They're all tools for to make the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the highest and to make the Islamic civilization at all level a dominant civilization. Okay, so the first you have the ontology for the states. So there's no, this challenge is further complicated by the reckoning that Strain Muslim has not done so much to. There's no complication there. I mean, if complication is if your conception is muddled. So these states are not Islamic state. These are imperialist backed and imperialist serves serving states which are located or which are embedded in the imperialist systems. So the task is to overthrow these states and establish Islamic State like in Iran and Afghanistan. And then he goes about his rant against Iranian revolution and etc. Yet the state remains the favorite temple of the Islamists and ulama because the state is a reality template. But obviously, we need to understand a state and the conception of a state and how to overcome this state better. That's the thing. And state is not just the state at the level of government, but the state exists at the level of society as well, at the level of family. So it is more dynamic and more penetrative thing rather than something which is just certain institutions. Okay, we should stop here. Inshallah, we will start from here in recent. Okay, Assalamu alaikum.